You told the truth. You said the thing everyone else was too scared to say. And now you're the problem. You're the one who's too much, the one who can't let it go, the one who's started drama when all you did was refuse to lie anymore. Welcome to Elisha's Space, sanctuary for healing that actually change things. I'm Elisha, your host, a counselor and author. Is someone who has sat in the same stuck places you have. If you've been watching for a while, I see you, and I'm glad that you're back. And if you're new here, welcome home. First, let me begin by saying that nothing's wrong with you. If your family punished you for telling the truth, that's not because the truth was dangerous. It's because the truth threatened the system. Today's episode is practical, clinical, but pastoral. We're going to talk about what a truth teller actually is in a family system, why the system fights back, and how to stay regulated while you hold your ground. I'm just going to give some space. Before we dive deep, I want you to know the lens I use when I'm sitting across from you. I don't just come to this as a clinician with a degree. I come as someone who has navigated my own stuck places. I know what it's like to have the fog roll in and things you usually love, like that are meaningful, suddenly feel like too much work. Because I've walked through my own seasons of the spiral. I'm not here to judge, I'm here to help you map them so that you can find your way faster each time. Think of a family like a mobile hanging over a baby's crib. If you tug on one string, the whole thing shakes. To keep the mobile from shaking, every person in a family subconsciously picks up a role to keep things balanced, even if that balance is actually really unhealthy. In most families where there is hidden pain or secrets, four roles usually emerge. The enabler, the one who smooths everything over, makes excuses, and tries to keep the peace at any cost. Number two is the golden child, the one who has to be perfect, successful, and high achieving so the family looks good from the outside. 3, the scapegoat, the one who is labeled as the problem or the difficult one. Information and blame get dumped on them. And 4 is the truth teller. This is the person who has the audacity to see the elephant in the room and actually name it. In a dysfunctional family, there is one unspoken rule that is more important than any other. Don't name it. Don't talk about the drinking. Don't talk about the anger. Don't talk about the sadness. If you are the truth teller, you are the one who breaks that rule. You say, hey, this isn't okay, or we are all hurting. When you break that rule, the rest of the family mobile shakes. To make the shaking stop, the family often tries to fix the truth teller by turning them into the scapegoat. They decide that you are the reason things are hard. If they can make you the sick one or the unstable one, then they don't have to look at their own stuff. Sometimes those spirals of negative self talk you experience are just the echoes of that scapegoat role. You've been trained to believe that if something feels wrong, it must be your fault. Part of our work here is helping you realize that your ability to feel deeply and see the truth isn't a mental health spiral. It's actually your greatest strength. You just haven't been taught how to carry it yet. As I'm describing these roles, the enabler, the golden child, the scapegoat, and the truth teller, which one feels the most like the outfit you've been forced to wear? Tonight, we're going to take that scapegoat jacket off. You aren't the problem. You are the brave one that was brave enough to seek a new way of living. And if you see yourself as the truth teller or the scapegoat, and if you're experiencing sadness from that, that might actually be unprocessed grief for a family that wasn't allowed to be honest. To a child, the family isn't just a social group, it's a survival system. For most of human history, if you were exiled from your tribe, you died. This is hardwired into our DNA. Your nervous system's primary job is to keep you in with the tribe so you stay safe. In a system where don't name it is the rule, honesty is seen as a betrayal. When you speak the truth, or even just think the truth, Your brain doesn't just see it as a difference of opinion, it sees it as a threat to your survival. It thinks, if I say this, the tribe will exile me and I will be alone in the wild. Inside your brain, you have a smoke detector called the amygdala. Its only job is to look for danger. And in your family system, the truth was the danger. So, whenever you start to notice the reality of your situation, or whenever you try to be your own person, your amygdala pulls the fire alarm. You aren't just feeling socially uncomfortable. Your body is flooding with stress hormones, the cortisol and the adrenaline, and you might feel your heart racing, fight or flight, a lump in your throat, the body trying to literally stop the words, or a sudden urge to hide or get away. And here's where maybe some episodes of sadness and low motivation may come in. When your nervous system stays on high alert, that's anxiety, fight or flight, for too long, because you're trying to navigate these family roles, it eventually gets exhausted. It hits a breaker switch. This is called the dorsal vagal response, but you know it as the spiral. There's the sadness, as it actually is your body shutting down to conserve interest, serve energy. The loss of interest, it's your brain's turning off of non-essential functions because it thinks it's in survival crisis. And then there's the negative self-talk, your internal enforcer trying to shame you back into your role so that everyone else doesn't get mad at you. Your spirals aren't a sign that you're broken. They are a sign that your body is exhausted from trying to survive a system where it wasn't safe to be honest. When you feel that spiral coming on, I want you to try talking to your body. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" try saying, "My body feels like it's in danger right now because I'm being honest with myself. I am safe. I am an adult. I am allowed to see the truth. And I don't need the tribe to survive anymore." I'm just checking the chat. Okay. This isn't visualization. This is physiology. Hey, Sevdal, how are you? And this takes me to our R.E.S.T framework. Just one moment. If you have questions, I'm just checking my chat. Thank you, Sevdal. I'm just checking the chat. If you have questions, I'm here for that. The REST framework: recognize, engage, soothe, testify. Is a somatic and spiritual roadmap. It's not just about resting from activity. It's about the process of reclaiming the self when the family system tries to swallow you whole. For R, recognize. Before the spiral takes over, there is a moment where the body senses the threat. And so we want to identify the body markers of being hooked by the family system. That can look like, I feel that familiar tightness in my throat. I am suddenly feeling small or childlike in this room. I am starting to hear the inner critic tell me I'm being difficult just for having a boundary. In recognize, this isn't something that you take ownership of. This is your body reacting to an old role. E, engage. In a family system that gaslights or silences you, you often disassociate or float away in your head, which begins the start of the spiral. Engaging brings you back to the here and now. We're breaking that internal freeze by interacting with reality, not the family's version of reality, but the actual physical world. You can do that by grounding, you know, looking around the room and and recognizing 5 things you can see. You can do that by touch, grabbing something, whether it be a fidget or if it's something that's meaningful to you, and just feeling the edges of that. Naming, where you're looking around the room and you're naming 3 things that are true right now. I am in my home. I'm 24 years old. I am safe. S, soothe. Because truth telling historically felt like death or exile in your family, your nervous system is currently screaming. You cannot think your way out of a body alarm. You have to soothe your way out. So perhaps that mother or father comfort you didn't receive when you were being honest as a child, you reparent yourself in that. By showing yourself self-compassion, that's a way to soothe. It makes total sense that I feel shaky right now. I'm doing something brave. Physiological, grabbing a warm tea, a weighted blanket, or doing a breathing exercise. Or something spiritual, reciting a verse like, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Using the big truth to quiet the small family fear. And T stands for testify. Now that you're regulated, you testify. It's not a court hearing. It's you stating what is true without needing the other person to agree or validate it. And we do this because speaking the truth without the filler of over defending or apologizing. I am not the problem. I am the one observing the problem. I am not able to keep this conversation going if we're going to keep circling back to my failures. That's your external testimony. I hear that you're upset, but I'm confident in the path I'm taking. Because once you testify, the work is done. You don't have to convince them. You've spoken, and now you can return to your life. Most truth tellers do testify first while they're still dysregulated. They yell the truth, or they speak it while shaking. And the family uses that vibration as proof that they are unstable or something is wrong with you to validate the narrative that they've been speaking about you. The rest order changes the game. We recognize it stops the spiral. We engage because it keeps you in your present state, your adult body. We soothe because it's going to remove the threat response that makes you look crazy to others. And we testify because it allows you to speak from a place of calm authority. So when you feel the cloud starting to descend, that feeling where you're starting to disassociate, don't fight it, just rest. Walk through the steps, recognize the role, engage, soothe your shaking heart, and then testify to yourself, I am allowed to be whole, even if they aren't. So I'm going to leave the space for Q&A of questions and answers if anyone has any questions about this, and I will leave this up as well. But I will share some common questions that I typically get. And if you think of any questions, I'm happy to do that with you on this live. One question that I commonly get is, why did telling the truth cost you your family? A lot of times, people lose their family. And in a healthy family, truth telling is rewarded with intimacy. But in a dysfunctional system, truth is a currency that buys you exile. I mention this because it feels like a debt that you're paying. For some, it costs them the seat of a Thanksgiving table. For others, it costs them the protection of the family. When you spoke up about the drinking, the unspoken anger, or the fake perfection, you kind of lose your belonging. And I like to reframe that a little bit. If the cost is isolation, that spiral isn't just depression, it's grief. Because you're grieving a version of home that required you to lie to stay safe. And we need to acknowledge that cost so that you can stop wondering why you feel so heavy. You're carrying a debt that should not have been yours to pay. Telling the truth, a lot of time, it costs you the illusion of safety. And in a dysfunctional family, There's a contract that says, if we all pretend things are fine, we're all safe. When I told the truth, I broke the contract. But what did it cost you? It cost you your nervous system's baseline. Because when you spoke up, you were no longer under the radar. You became the focal point of the family's redirected anxiety. And it cost you the ability to relax in your own home. Your body became a permanent lookout, always scanning for the next attack or the next cold shoulder. And this is why, even years later, being honest feels like inviting a hunt. Your body remembers that truth resulted in a loss of the herd's protection. Another question that I typically get. Yes, yes. Another question that I typically get is, were you labeled the dramatic one or the sensitive one for naming something real? And those labels are weapons of containment. If the family can convince everyone, including you, that you are too sensitive or too dramatic, then they don't have to listen to what you're actually saying. It's a way of saying the problem isn't the fire, the problem is the smoke detector that keeps going off. So when you hear it said that you feel crazy around when those labels keep repeating, the design is to keep you quiet. What if you aren't dramatic? What if you are the only one in the room with a functional nervous system that can still feel when things are wrong? Being sensitive is actually your superpower. It's how you knew the family was hurting before anyone else did. So you were called overly sensitive because you could feel the tension in the room before anyone spoke. You were called dramatic because you refused to minimize the impact of the family's chaos. Those labels were a distraction. If your family can convince themselves that you are being hypersensitive, then they don't have to address the cause of your sensitivity. And another question that I commonly get, I think your question is a good question, Safdal. Why is it hard to just trust God? I think part of it is that we're dysregulated. So trusting God doesn't just have to do with trusting God, it's trusting presence, His presence within that He's there with you and He's walking you through it, that He's there to co-regulate with you while you're going through whatever you're going through. And trusting that because He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end, He has you. Another question that I typically get is, what's one thing you wish someone had told you when you were first scapegoated for speaking up? Most people who are scapegoated for truth telling were just children or young adults when it started. You were a whistleblower before you even knew what that word meant. And we want to go back to that younger version of you, the one who first felt the mobile shake because you were honest. Usually, Clients tell me that they wish someone had told them that they weren't crazy. And you're right. It's not your fault that the adults can't handle the truth. By answering their question, you're starting to soothe and testify those parts of rest. You're testifying to the child you were, letting that child know that their eyes didn't deceive them. You weren't making trouble, you were witnessing it. And the peace that you're breaking, it's not actually peace, it was just silence. So just note that if it is someone, if there's anger around you speaking up, the reason that they're angry at you right now is not because you're wrong, but it's because you're accurate. You're holding up a mirror, and they aren't ready to see that reflection. Your shaking hands aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign of a body that's currently doing something incredibly brave. You are not breaking the family. You are the only one trying to fix it by acknowledging its brokenness. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. And the cost is normally, or what it can look like, is anxiety, that loss of belonging. The label can look like self-doubt because you're being dramatic or overly sensitive. And it can be a lack of validation, which can feel like isolation. And by doing this, you're actually practicing testimony. You are stating the truth of your history so that your nervous system can finally stop trying to solve a past that wasn't your fault. You're moving the broken puzzle pieces out of your heart and you're putting them back on the table where they belong, with the people that actually broke them. His peace is not dependent on your circumstances being resolved. It is a regulated nervous system in the presence of a safe God. Father, I am grateful that you made these bodies, that you've knit together the very nervous systems that we are learning to regulate. We ask that you study the ones who told the truth and paid for it. Let them know that they were never the problem. Amen. So, for the next 7 days, what I want you to do is to name it and don't defend it. Where you're going to practice to breaking the desire to fixing the family's perception of you. What you're going to do is, when you notice an internal accuracy, I want you to speak the truth and recognize, name what is happening. You are practicing internal accuracy. This is going to be on days 1 and 2. The goal is for you to stop gaslighting yourself. Every time you interact with your family, whether it be text or phone, you can say to yourself, I'm seeing a pattern. They're asking me to be a scapegoat. I don't want you to defend, even in your own head. Just don't argue with them. Don't rehearse what you should have said. Just name the truth. Just name that truth. 2, on days 3 and 4, I want you to begin to name that pattern out loud, but keep it strictly observational. The goal is for you to kind of reparent yourself and to notice that that's what was said, but even though it was said, it doesn't make it true about you. I notice we're talking about, this is what it can look like, right? I notice we're talking about my past again instead of my current issue. I see that you're upset that I have a boundary. I don't want you to defend your stance. When they say things like, what do you mean by that? Or you're being so clinical, you simply say, it's just an observation, and then stop. Silence is your shield. Silence speaks. Days 5 and 6 is the I'm not available phase. And this is where that pressure will peak. This is where you refuse to participate in the spiral and the dance. And the goal is to resist the pull for self-correction. So when the pressure to keep the peace hits, state your truth once. I'm not going to be the one to carry this stress for the family today. Don't defend it. They'll likely call you selfish or dramatic. Abstain from the urge to explain why you aren't. Let them have their wrong opinion of you. It's the cost of your freedom. And then on day 7, I want you to do a review and look at what happened on those other days. It shows that you survived telling your truth and being vulnerable. You ask yourself, I named the truth, I didn't defend it, I felt the guilt, and I am still here. My room is quiet, and I am safe. I don't want you to defend, because when you find yourself in those cycles of defending your truth, you are effectively asking for permission to be right. In a family that relies on you being the problem, they're never going to give you that permission. Defending keeps you tethered to their mobile. Naming without defending, it cuts the string. So when you feel that spiral coming on, it's usually because you tried to defend yourself. But the moment you feel yourself starting to explain, I want you to literally just drop your hands and say, I have nothing further to add. And witness that power of your own period at the end of the sentence. If this episode has helped you, please share it and text it to one person you know is struggling. You will be able to check out the START guide, which assists with regulation and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I will put that right now in the chat. Give me a moment. It's free to use. You can upload it anytime using this link. There we go. And you can always visit the website at elishaspace.unpodium.com. Until next time, you are not too much, you're not too far, and you are not alone. Have a wonderful evening.